Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Sphumelele Zondi. Tonight we have information about countries that have been shutting down the internet around the African continent. We have a conversation about that with Dr. Edmaya Mare. This is often in times of protest and elections. We will also tell you about some of Uber's woes. We also have details about an app that allows you to invite strangers to your house and treat them to a home-cooked meal. Find us on SABC Network. That's on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. It's News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Let's start with your technology and social media news. We often hear about the low number of women participating in the ICT sector. Well, this might be changing and the number is dropping. And in the male-dominated field, producer Lebisi Jagger tells us more about this.
We often report on the staggering low number of women in the tech industry. Though the numbers aren't rapidly growing, there are women in the digital space that are making a difference. And we got to meet some of these game changers at the Cisco Connect 2017 event held in Sun City.
My name is Kathy Smith, and I'm the Managing Director of Cisco Southern Africa. So that's South Africa and all of the bordering countries like Angola, Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, etc. That's my role.
Another woman who spoke extensively on the discussion about the role of women in the digital ecosystem is Michelle Davidos from Ericsson, South Africa.
This conversation will become a lot more meaningful when we shift the dialogue away from male, female, and diversity being a conversation that is more men, more women, but rather a business conversation. That if you do not have a diverse workforce, that you will not be as successful as you could be if you had a diverse workforce. I think there's a report that McKinsey did, some research, which shows that there is a direct correlation between diversity and innovation in organizations.
Kathy oversees some of Cisco's ICT skills development projects and has teamed up with Wits University's Tshimologong's digital precinct based in Braamfontein, Johannesburg.
And we're supporting Tshimologong in terms of giving them connectivity so that they can get startups going, the conversation going, and they can learn about what Cisco is doing and get access to us, which includes MetaCAD. But one of our new partnerships that we're just starting is with the Innovation Hub, and looking at how we can bring what we call DevNet. And DevNet is a program we run to really accelerate application development, skills development, and training, and we're taking that with the Innovation Hub into the locations.
Though low in numbers, women such as Kathy and Michelle are living proof that women too can be key players in this male-dominated field, and that it might not be too long till we see more women becoming key players in this digital ecosystem.
An Egyptian woman has become the first from her country to be included in the Forbes list of 30 under 30s. Digital artist and graphic designer Gada Wali has received many accolades before. She's excited about the latest one. Gada Wali is an award-winning graphic designer from Egypt. Her work has crossed the seas, and the 27-year-old has found fame in Europe too. Wali says she turned her hobby of drawing into a career and later moved her talent online. Her creations include digital landscapes of portraits, interactive campaigns, and educational material mostly based on her heritage and societal upbringing. She is the first Egyptian woman to be featured on Forbes' list of 30 under 30s.
To me, this is an honor, and I believe it is the first time an Egyptian is featured on this list. I am very happy that the work I submitted is related to Arabic, related to the Egyptian identity. So it makes me very happy that even the work I was awarded on was projects related to my identity.
In 2016, she also won the Society of Typographic Arts 100 Award, a design competition based in Chicago, which looks for the top 100 typography design projects from around the world. Wali has designed a 21st century Arabic dictionary called Let's Play, which aims at simplifying the teaching of the Arabic language in order to break through language barriers. Today, having become a somewhat local celebrity, her clients range from agencies, brands, film production houses and schools.
I'll try as much as I can through my work to produce things that will lead to positive change. Of course, it will differ if it's a brand that wants to deliver something on a product, or a startup, or a school.
The digital artist's latest venture with a local production house has her designing and producing a movie trailer, which she hopes will breathe new life to the Egyptian film industry. It seems that Uber's woes are far from over, with the resignation of its president, Jeff Jones, adding to the existing debacle. Some wonder if the future of the ride-hailing app is bright or not.
Uber President Jeff Jones made headlines with his announcement of quitting earlier in the week. The news comes after a series of tumultuous episodes that the ride-hailing app is currently experiencing.
Jeff Jones didn't give a lot of detail as to why he stepped down, but he did release a very short media statement which said that basically the style of leadership within Uber was not what he was expecting or used to. So he'd only been there 6 months, remember. He wasn't at the company very long. He came from Target, the big retailer. And he basically said that this isn't what I was expecting, and left. And didn't give any more detail than that.
Ever since its inception, Uber has had a number of humps and bumps around the world. Just recently, in Madrid, Spain, taxi drivers marched against the app, demanding more regulations from the local government to protect their jobs.
We are not afraid of competition. What we don't want is these people not following the legislation and trying to compete with us as they did with Uberpop, an application using tourism vehicles without the appropriate license. We say yes to competition, but respecting the rules.
Here in South Africa, meter taxi drivers blocked the main highway to Africa's busiest airport, OR Tambo International, causing long traffic jams, also in protest of Uber.
We are experiencing the illegality of Uber that is operating in the meter taxi. And they call it, they say it's a competition. In our industry, there is no competition because we are regulated.
Uber has no doubt infiltrated the taxi industry. The question is, will the ride-hailing app survive these hard times?
So remember, Uber lost somewhere in the region of $3 billion last year. That's an operating loss of 40 billion rand, which is a staggering amount of money. And I can't think of a single South African company that would still be in existence if it lost even half that in a year. So what Uber's primary trading at the moment in this growth period is in confidence. It's investors, the people who are backing it to that extent, need to know that they have the confidence in the company that it's going to carry on growing and it's going to achieve this grand aim that the CEO has of being the de facto software platform for pretty much any form of logistics you can think of, being able to order a parcel via an Uber, a car via an Uber, even helicopters and boats are on Uber now. So that's the long-term strategy. So I think what we're seeing at the moment is that shakedown between this enormously disruptive period that Uber's been through, where it's shaken up traditional understanding of the taxi industry and put this platform in place that's lowered prices, has raised quality in some cases. But at the same time, the company has grown so fast that it gives the impression of being a little bit out of control. You know, there are a lot of problems all over the world that it's encountering. And I think what the Uber board and CEO Travis Kalanick particularly need to do now is they need to prove that they can handle the scope of the ambition.
Jones isn't the first high-level exec to leave the company in recent months. 2 other high-ranking members of staff also departed earlier this month.
Huawei has opened its first experience store in South Africa, and Uber has suspended its program for driverless cars. These are some of the top tech stories that made tech headlines in the rest of the world.
The first Huawei experience store has opened in South Africa. It's at Mall of Africa. Owners of the store say they're excited about this one.
I've been the person of the company awarded the store in Mall of Africa.
Huawei says more expected in Gauteng, Cape Town and Durban. Uber Technologies has suspended its pilot program for driverless cars. This is after a vehicle equipped with nascent technology crashed on an Arizona roadway. The accident is the latest involving a self-driving vehicle operated by one of the several companies experimenting with an autonomous vehicles. Uber said it caused no serious injuries. Social media companies Facebook, Alphabet and Twitter will have to amend their terms of service for European users within a month or face the risk of fines. The European Commission says the tight scrutiny in Europe is for the way they do business, from privacy to how quickly they remove illegal or threatening content.
I think if you look at what they're saying, there's lots of things on the table, right, ranging from privacy to, doing more to stop fraud and scams on these social media sites. If you look more broadly at what's going on, the likes of Facebook, Twitter and Google have been so integral to consumers that I think we can really expect much more public scrutiny of what they do and probably much more regulation. So in a way, they've really become victims of their own success.
Authorities and commissions sent letters to the companies in December saying that some of their service terms broke EU consumer protection law and that they needed to do more to tackle fraud and scams on their websites.
It's SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. After the break, we chat internet shutdowns in various African countries with Dr. Edmaya Mare. Stay with us.
If you ask this Irish master whiskey distiller why sometimes whiskey is spelled with an E and sometimes without, he'd say,
"Oh, to be sure. You feel so good, look. It's the whole thing. They're back and to get off in the whiskey without the E."
Yeah, didn't catch that. But if you asked us the difference, we'd tell you that every whiskey from around the world is spelled without the E, except for Irish and American whiskies. Get a 750ml bottle of Jameson Irish whiskey for only $269.99 from Tops at Spar.
It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Welcome back. And now some African countries have been shutting down the internet. They have been claiming that it poses a security threat, but this has put some people out of business.
To most of us, internet is a basic necessity. Most use it to get in touch with family and friends. Others use it to run their businesses.
I run a boutique called Etnet, amazing boutique as you can see. And we used technology for all sorts of things. Our website is technology driven, WhatsApp, Facebook. So we do use it for, the everyday run of the business.
Some use it as an activism tool against social injustices. And some use it for fun, like posting pictures on Instagram. Internet has become an important part of our daily lives. Even the United Nations declared shutting it down a crime. But that has not stopped some African countries from shutting down the internet. As we speak, English-speaking part of Cameroon has been experiencing internet cuts.
This act is a true violation of the rights of citizens, and unfortunately, the effect is that it radicalizes the population. You imagine that you did not participate in something and now you are under repression for it. How does that make you feel?
Kabelo Chabalala visited Ethiopia recently. He says he was stuck at the airport due to lack of connectivity. He was not able to find numbers of his friends that he had saved on Facebook.
We would walk around, take just short walks just to see if there was nothing. Everything that was popping out on your phone as you search for free Wi-Fi spot, it would just be locked or blocked. So there was absolutely no access. And I asked at the hotel that do they actually offer free Wi-Fi? They said no, the government has blocked it for whatever reason, political reasons that they have. So there wasn't any access.
This trend can be seen in other countries like Zimbabwe, Gabon, Uganda and Gambia. The notable downside of the shutdown is the impact it has on people's livelihood.
they just banned the internet, which is the source of my livelihood. I just feel like maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe I should just leave the country like my friends and never return again. And I personally feel bad that if that would be unpatriotic on my part, but you know, we have to do what we have to do sometimes. And now I don't even know if the internet will be returned. I don't know when it will be returned.
Governments claim that internet is a security threat, but it's curious how they only shut it down when people are voicing their concerns or during elections.
To unpack more on this issue is Dr. Edmaya Mare, who is a doctoral fellow at the University of Johannesburg. Hello, and thank you for being a part of our network tonight.
Great. Thank you for inviting me.
Now, why do these African countries shut down the internet from time to time?
There are a variety of reasons why this is happening, actually. I think one of the major problems that we are having in Africa is that countries are not ready for regime change. And whenever they see that there is a threat to their power, they always tend to the default mode of internet shutdowns. And I think one of the other reasons that we also need to look at is that, you cannot control information in the digital era, but they are trying to do that through internet shutdowns. And that's why we are seeing more and more countries joining the list of internet violators. For example, you've talked about Zimbabwe, you've talked about Gabon. We also have got Ethiopia is also one of those countries which is very, very known. It's known actually for doing communication surveillance, which is another internet violation actually, which we also need to talk about.
You just said that countries are not ready for regime change, so this would suggest that it happens mostly during times of of elections, rather.
Yes, exactly. During times of elections and during times of protest, we are seeing more and more, countries joining this bandwagon of people that are violating the rights to internet access. And I think as long as we don't deal with the democratic institutions in Africa, we are likely to continue to see this kind of trend continuing across the continent.
And does blocking the internet hurt protest action?
It's either yes or no. There are two reasons to that. One, I would say that, for example, if you look at what happened in Egypt, the government of Hosni Mubarak actually tried to block the internet. They actually, switched off the internet totally. But what it actually did was that it actually forced those people who were not even interested in politics to actually go to Tahrir Square. And actually, it had the negative effect. Actually, it ended up actually creating a situation where the regime had to fall. So in other countries, it can actually work. For example, we are talking about the Cameroon case right now, where we are actually seeing that the internet shutdown. Actually, yes, it has paralyzed the protests actually in Cameroon. But what it has not done is that it's not been able to deal with those who are actually doing it in the diaspora. We are seeing more and more protesters actually targeting embassies abroad, which is actually shows that you cannot actually deal with grievances that way.
But Dr. Edmaya Mare, you are citing the case of Egypt here and what many termed the Arab Spring at the time. A lot of governments might say, well, look at what happened there. So we're protecting ourselves by shutting down the internet, no?
Yeah, of course they can say that, but what they don't really understand is that the way of going around trying to shut down internet is not always going to help the people, because if we have already seen in the clip that you have just shown, we have also realized that it actually hurts even people's livelihoods, people that are even not interested in politics. People who are just doing e-commerce, mobile transactions actually being done, via the internet and, social media. And all these are actually being destroyed, because actually once you do that, you are destroying people's livelihoods. What happens to a startup actually which relies more on the internet when you do that, and they are not even interested in politics, so to speak. So yes, you can protect your seat of power, but what are you doing to the livelihoods of people? We need to look at that as well.
There's also a curious case of Zimbabwe in 2016. There were calls that were made online on social media apps for people to protest, and there was a massive protest action. Those calls continued, but protest action died down. What happened there? Because the internet was used throughout, but in the beginning it seemed to have worked. In the end, it wasn't working.
Yeah, I think when we look at the Zimbabwe is is a very complex society to look at anyway. But what I would think could have attributed to this kind of a situation was that we realized that once the leaders of the movements, for example, Ivan Mawarire, when he left Zimbabwe, he lost people's goodwill. And because of his departure from the field where actually protests were actually taking, people could not continue with that. So what we also realized that when the leaders of the protest actually also move out of the field, we tend to see more and more people, taking that apathetic route, and I believe that also could have attributed. And we have also seen that the Zimbabwean government recently tried to increase the data, the prices of data. Why were they doing that? They also wanted to deal with this kind of, social media instigated protests. So obviously, we are seeing different ways of dealing with protests. Some are actually increasing internet prices. Some are actually shutting it down. So it depends on the...
Government often cites security concerns. Yes. And security concerns, we have seen the likes of terror groups, for example, using the internet to campaign and to get more support. Yes. Could there be legitimacy in that concern?
Yes, security is always a concern of any government.
But could there be legitimacy in shutting down the internet and using that, and using the excuse of security, if you will, in order to shut down the internet?
I don't buy that argument, because obviously, yes, you can use the security argument, but at the end of the day, we have got many other ways of dealing with insecurity, if we want to look at it that way. So you cannot say that if you shut down the internet, then you are going to deal with insecurity, because insecurity comes in so many ways. So I don't think that argument would actually fly anyway.
You just mentioned something that you saw on the clip as well. People who have businesses that rely on the internet, yes, saying that their businesses get hurt when this happens. Do governments realize that in 2017, the economy relies a lot on the internet?
I think that African countries have gotten to a point where they don't realize that. Most of African countries don't believe that. Because why do I say so? Because most of our economies are still agro-based, and because of that, we don't see the importance of digital economy.
All right, so you're going to have to hold it there. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Edmaya Mare.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Dr. Edmaya Mare, there is a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Johannesburg. Now, this week we spoke to actor Stumo Mjali. He told us what his favorite technology is.
Hi, my name is Stumo Mjali. I'm an aspiring actor. My favorite gadget would have to be what I'm aiming to own is a drone. A drone is this little helicopter machine that shoots videos, shoots movies, and hopefully to spy on people.
Now, if you are a foodie and want a home-cooked meal, then you might want to try out Convivial. That's a meal-sharing app that allows you to cook and charge for a meal. We spoke to the developer, and this is what he had to say to us.
It's a food-sharing platform that seeks to connect those who are passionate about cooking. Actually, it seeks to connect those people who share common interests, right, through food. So the idea is to connect those who are passionate about cooking, entertaining people, to share whatever that they're cooking. For instance, let's say if you feel like having umngqusho as an example, which is an African traditional cuisine or food. So basically you can just go to the platform, search who's cooking whatever within whatever criteria that you've applied on the platform. Then if you've managed to find that, then you can either make a reservation, vet the person to check whether you are compatible with the person, whatever the case is, okay? However, if the person is not interested in inviting that person over, then you either reject the reservation request, and if a person is compatible, then approve, and then on approval, it will then send the reservation request a key that the person will then produce.
This week, our poll was asking whether you are loyal to the smartphone brand that you use. Now, 44% of respondents said they are very loyal to their smartphone brands. There was 34% who said they have moderate loyalty, and 22% on the screen behind me say that they are not loyal at all. And that's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. From me, Siphumelele Zondi, and the rest of the network team, have a good one.